So the big question is this: how do most agents who don't have access to the secrets that the top agents in our industry hoard to themselves grow and prosper in today's real estate environment? That's the question. And this video podcast is the answer. I'm Pat Hartman, and welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. And now for the review of the day. Okay, I got a 5-star review here from the Mom 007. The Mom 007 says, great show, especially Market Insights episode. I love all the episodes. But the Market Insights episodes, which by the way, she's talking about state of the market, enable me to understand the larger national scene and have a broader understanding of the national real estate market outside of my small area. Keep them coming. Thank you, Mom 007. Keep the comments coming, guys. I love them. And remember, I eat feedback for breakfast, so give me a 1-star review if you want, or a 5-star review if you want. I don't care. And the more reviews we get, the better guests we get. So please, subscribe first, and then leave us a review or wherever you're listening. Rockstar Nation, thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to stay to the end, where our guests will be offering a free gift. As you know, all of our guests offer a free gift, and all of these gifts can be found on the Agent Success Toolbox. You could find that by going to hybendigital.com/toolbox, or simply texting the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox to 444-999. I am going to put today's free gift in today's show notes, but if you want all of them, including gifts from most of our guests that have come on the show, just go to the Agent Success Toolbox. All right, Rockstar Nation, I got a great returning guest, and here's the shocking thing. It's been a long time. 182. This dude was episode 182. Now we're pushing on 900 here, and so I just feel so lucky to have him back. So I'm excited for today, guys. You are in for a treat. Hold on. We're going to dig deep into some things on the economy, on real estate today, real estate yesterday, real estate in the future, all things real estate. Mr. Jason Hartman is back. Jason, welcome back to Real Estate Rockstars.
Hey, Pat, thanks for the warm welcome back, and it's good to be here. Yeah, it's been a long time since episode 182.
Hey, why don't you give everybody a little rundown on who you are, Jason, so they get to know you better?
Sure. I started in traditional real estate, and I'll distinguish what traditional real estate means compared to what I'm doing now. Back when I was 19 years old, I was in my first year of college, and I became very successful very quickly. Started with Century 21. I was just there for 9 months, and then I went to RE/MAX and had a 12-year career at RE/MAX. And by the time I was 24, I was number 59 in the world for RE/MAX. And back then, I think that was a pretty good accomplishment because there wasn't much thinking or training in the real estate business back then about how to really run it as a business, Pat. Nowadays, there's a lot of that. The industry has definitely matured, so it's more competitive, but there's also a lot more tools nowadays too. Back then, it was kind of much less mature industry. And I remember one of the funny things is that realtors were so paranoid about the internet. And they thought that AT&T, if you can believe this, AT&T was going to start their own MLS. And back then, realtors really were very protective of that MLS data, and now we've seen that change. So a lot has changed in the way the market.
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone was paranoid about the MLS going public,
right?
And then when it is public now, it hasn't seemed to be the crisis. It's almost like Y2K when everybody thought, the world was going to end. The world hasn't ended. The commissions haven't plummeted. That was the big prediction. Once the MLS was public, then there would be no need for realtors, and the commissions would then plummet. So what do you think? What do you think about that? It's just, is it always going to be like that? the more and more disruptive technologies that come out?
Everybody is always fearful of disruptive technology, of course. That's, throughout history. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story about that. When a man named Elias Howe invented the sewing machine, everybody, including women, and not to sound sexist or anything, but this is the way the world different.
That's who sewed back 100 years ago, right? I mean, men didn't sew.
Including women, thought this is going to be a terrible disruptive technology, because what are we going to do with all our spare time? Well, they seem to have figured something out, right? So, all this stuff is never as worrisome as it seems to be. It does require us to adapt. In any storm, the trees still standing after the storm are the ones that are flexible, that bend with the wind, that can adapt. And the ones that get knocked down are the ones that refuse to bend. Right. And so we need to adapt to things. Now, I would say that the public, I guess the sort of the public access to what is basically the MLS in one form or another nowadays has mostly helped listing agents more than buyer's agents. But it can help either side of that equation. I was a listing agent. I'm still a fan of being a listing agent. And but yeah, the industry is still here. Everybody has realized that a house, or any kind of property for that matter, is not a commodity like an airline ticket or a stock or a bond. It's a complicated asset. Two houses right next door to each other can be very different, and you need an actual person, an actual human who has experience, brains, to help guide that buyer or seller through that process. So the industry has not gone away. I will tell you, though, I read an article a couple of years ago about something I think really could be a major disruptor if it happens.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah. So, of course, the public pretty much has access to the data now. The data is not protected anymore like it used to be in the old days. Okay, the MLS was like this club. Okay,
right,
and the national
you needed a realtor to get it.
Right. And the National Association of Realtors was very protective of that. Well, the one part that the realtors still have control of is access to the actual property, right? They have the lockbox key.
Temporarily. I mean, now on rentals, I don't know about your rentals, but a lot of my rentals now are going to, electronic lock boxes and cameras, because cameras are so cheap. You can see who's in and out of the house.
Right. By the way, I'd love to hear more about exactly how you're executing on that, because I know some of our clients are using that. They're using the electronic locks or lock boxes, and where people can put an app on their phone, get access, and so forth for a vacant rental. But when it's an occupied house, it's still the real estate agent that's really
when it's an occupied house. Yeah, today when it's an occupied house. My opinion is that in the future, cameras are so cheap that people will have 75 cameras per house. So even if it's an occupied house and you go out and take your dog for a walk or you go get some coffee, you're going to know everything and anything of what someone's doing in your house, and it's going to be recorded. Sure. But go ahead. I don't want to piss on your parade there. Keep talking about.
I don't know what's going to happen, but what you're referring to is kind of the concept of Amazon Key, right?
Yes.
That Amazon Key program where you can authorize the delivery person to go inside your house and leave your packages, right?
Correct.
And so that's all a possibility. We'll see how it goes. But the one I was specifically referring to is that I remember reading an article that Zillow was trying to do a deal with Uber to provide lockbox keys to Uber drivers. Now, if you think about it, granted that Uber driver probably doesn't have a real estate license, but you know what? They are screened to one extent or another, and they're somewhat vetted. And if you could go see houses with an Uber, that could be a game changer.
That's interesting. Let's think about this, guys. So everybody, I just want everyone to stop and think about this. If you're going to put your life in an Uber of a random person, right? Again, you're talking about a random person. why wouldn't you let that same random person in your house? If he's not going to kill you while you're in his car, he's probably not going to kill you, while he's in your house. It's a fascinating concept there.
If the access to the property is not controlled by the real estate agent, that is, I think, legitimate disintermediation. And I think the industry ought to be concerned about that. Who knows if it'll ever happen, but it's something to definitely think about, right?
Something to think about. So in most other countries, right? You look through Europe, Australia, New Zealand, a lot of these other countries where real estate is legitimate commerce that buys and sells. The buyers pay the broker, right? Just like they would pay a lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And the average commission outside of North America is a full percentage less. Like they say, the average commission, and I'm going to round, is like 1.5 everywhere else outside of North America. But in North America, it's average 2.65. And the reason that they say, and this is all based on articles, is because that the buyers are paying the agent direct themselves, and thereby they're negotiating it and saying, hey, you're only worth 1.5. And that's going to happen, where it could very possibly happen, especially if the agent doesn't have to show many houses and they act just like a lawyer acts. So what are your thoughts on that, Jason?
My thoughts are, we'll see. You know what? It's kind of anybody's guess where this is going to go. I used to say that the real estate industry, as much as everybody talked about change and disruption, I used to say, when I used to teach seminars to agents on general success, but also a lot on direct mail and stuff like that, and farming. And it was like this big giant marshmallow. You can take your fist, you can swing it, you can hit the marshmallow, and you pull your fist back, and the marshmallow, it just returns to the way it was, right? And that's kind of how the industry was. And we'll see, man. I don't know.
We'll see, right? Yeah. So you buy and sell a lot, right? You're out there buying and selling tons of stuff. You and I've known each other for a while. We've talked about different deals that we're both in and that sort of thing. Talk to me about what you know, what's going on, where you're buying, where you're selling, where you're holding.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so your listeners have a little background, because it's been since
please.
It's been a while. What I do now, I sold my traditional real estate company to Coldwell Banker in 2005. And ever since then, I've been working 100% with investors. I always loved real estate investing. That's why I got into the business when I was 19 years old. And I bought my first rental property at age 20. And so basically what we do now is I have a company that just helps investors buy properties nationwide. It's essentially a referral network and an education and support network. We have software that can help people buy and manage their properties and things like that. So in terms of the markets, we divide them into kind of three categories: linear, cyclical, and hybrid markets. And the linear markets are the boring ones that don't get much attention. These are the markets we like, okay? So examples of that would be Jacksonville, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee, Dayton, Ohio, some areas in like York, Pennsylvania, okay? Little Rock, Arkansas, Indianapolis, some areas in North Indiana as well, Jackson, Mississippi, Quad Cities area, Kansas City, these types of linear markets that don't make the news much, they kind of just chug along and do their thing, right? They produce really good cash flow. They've got low cost, entry level, bread and butter type housing that is really good for rental properties. I grew up, by the way, in Los Angeles, spent most of my adult life in Orange County and Newport Beach and Irvine. Those are cyclical markets, very expensive, cash flow never works. They're speculative. They have glorious highs in the market and really ugly lows in recessionary times. And so we help people buy properties in these linear
meaning markets. Line, right? Yeah, they're right. Flat, right?
Yep.
They don't go
Pretty
up
flat.
and down
Yeah.
value wise, but they're always renters looking to rent them.
Absolutely, yeah. They go up slowly. They just chug along. They're very consistent, and when the downturn happens, the downturn is minor. Okay, so this is the type of thing we do now, and I still think those markets are very solid and very strong. Inventory is very tight, very constricted. Your agents that are listening that are in any of these markets in the Midwest and the Southeast, there's just nothing to buy hardly. I mean, inventory is very, very tight. But if you look at along the West Coast or in the expensive northeastern markets, or South Florida, like Miami area, Fort Lauderdale, those markets are starting to experience some signs of I don't want to say collapse, but correction. Okay, certainly New York is seeing that a lot, and so that it's like a tale of two cities. To use an old cliche, right? It really is. These are very different markets. I can't stand it when you hear someone come on the news and talk about the housing market. Where the heck is the housing market? Is it in Miami or LA or Chicago or Memphis? I don't know where the housing market is. It's too big a country to talk about the housing market. It's just a generic soundbite. It doesn't give an accurate statement about what's really going on.
TribeOfMillionaires.com. Guys, write that down. Rockstar Nation got a free special offer for you. Now, I've just written a book, and it's just been published. Co-authored it with David Osborne, who's been on this show multiple times. If you don't know David, he is one of the top execs at Keller Williams Real Estate, was personally mentored for the last 2 decades by Gary Keller himself, and he's in all kinds of businesses. His bio and explanation and everything is in this book. But anyways, David and I got together. We decided to write a book. We called it Tribe of Millionaires. And I guarantee you it's going to change your life. To find out more, just go to tribeofmillionaires.com. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. Only thing we ask in return is, of course, number one, you pay the shipping. Not a big deal. But number two, that you go on Amazon and write us a review. We're really looking to get an incredible amount of reviews. And because of that, we're giving this book away for free. Go to tribeofmillionaires.com today. It's Team-tober here at Rebus University, and we're running a special for Real Estate Rockstar Nation. This special is going to save you 90% on your team's real estate training. And the cool thing is, as a team leader, you don't got to do nothing. Just put your team to work on this incredible training. Here's how it works. This week, it's the Certified Buyer Agent course. Buy the Certified Buyer Agent course. Yes, Carrie Shull, a billion-dollar realtor whose agents average $250,000 in gross commissions each, teaches this exclusive course that where if you buy one, you get 9 free. That means one person on your team takes it, the other 9 can take it as well simultaneously or separately, no time limit. And the cool part about it is you can talk about this on your team meetings. You could talk about what did you learn? How are you going to close more buyers this year? I guarantee you take this course, you're going to close a multiple of buyer deals just as a result of using these strategies that Carrie Shull teaches. So to get essentially 90% off, which is buy one, get 9 free, simply go to HymanDigital.com/teams. This offer is only valid for this week only. Next week will be another course. That's HymanDigital.com/teams. Yeah, fascinating. And what was the third category?
Hybrid. Yeah, thanks
Hybrid.
for asking.
Okay, talk to me about that.
Hybrid's easy. It's just in between linear and cyclical, right?
Okay.
But some examples of hybrid markets.
Yeah, give me some examples.
Would be places like Denver, Austin, and Phoenix. Those are hybrid.
I want to talk about that. Denver, Austin, and Phoenix. Great. Yep. Now, Phoenix is probably cyclical. I mean, that thing popped up and then crash just like California did in Vegas. I mean, but let's talk about Austin, because Austin, the last time everything went crazy, right? All the cyclical markets went very high in the last bubble. Austin was linear, right? Most of Texas, almost all of Texas was linear.
Yeah.
This time around, not at all, right? So at what point does Texas or Austin and Dallas and San Antonio, at what point do they become labeled cyclical?
That's a great question, and they do change. So you're very, very perceptive to bring that up, because I would also throw into the hybrid mix. I would throw in Dallas and Atlanta into hybrid, formerly only linear. Okay.
Yeah.
But as economies in these places become more diversified, and as the tax burden and the regulatory environment it becomes more onerous in places like my former home, I call it the Socialist Republic of California. California is a disaster. Okay. Look, the middle class is fleeing California. Okay. And they're going to places like Dallas, for example, and many of the other hybrids we mentioned. And Salt Lake City would be a hybrid too. Okay. So there's lots of hybrids, right?
Okay.
But so they do change, and Atlanta's now a hybrid, because Atlanta a few years ago had like 10, 11% appreciation. You can't call that linear anymore. Okay. It's just not.
Yeah, right. You can't.
Yeah. But the thing that's important to realize for your listeners, and there's a lot more information on my podcast about this and at my website, jasonhartman.com. But the thing to realize is that most of the planet is linear. Most of the world is a linear market. Okay. So, when you hear things from around the world about how markets are around the world, real estate around the world is crashing, right? Where? That's the question, right? The vast majority of the world is linear. So that statement is false, false, false when they say things like that. The problem is that the only newsworthy markets are really cyclical markets. So if you look around the world, the cyclical markets would be places that are all the trophy cities of planet Earth, right? There are Hong Kong, London, Dubai, Paris. These kinds of markets are cyclical. They have incredible stories. Linear markets, there's just not much to say about them ever. And that's why the news media doesn't talk about them very much, because there's just, it's not sensational. The news media likes sensational things. They like, if it bleeds, it leads, like the old saying in the news business.
It bleeds, it leads. What? That's funny. I never heard that. So what's your favorite linear market?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's like asking a mom or a dad, who's your favorite kid?
You got to have one this week. I mean, certainly this.
Yeah. Well, Indianapolis and Memphis have really been
Indianapolis
and Memphis.
Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee. Okay, that's interesting, because
those have really been two of our longest running,
longest running. So, that's an interesting word that you use, because I know some people that have certainly doubled their money in Memphis, so, but it could mean nothing, right? It could have just, interesting. Anyways, keep talking.
Well, the thing is, that's like right there, that statement. If your buddy told you I doubled my money in Memphis, that really needs to be dissected, right? What does that mean? Does that mean the house doubled in value? That's the way most people interpret that.
Yes. Yeah.
Really, you got to look at cash flow, right? And so that's a big part of the equation. And it just needs to be dissected a lot more. One of the simple rules that will help, really two simple rules that will help people understand what type of market they're in and where they are in the cycle of the market, because even linear markets have cycles. They're just not very pronounced. Is what I call the LTI ratio. This is one of my
LTI. Go ahead, break that down.
LTI. It's one of my trademark terms. I created this ratio because unlike the LTV ratio, which everybody's heard of, the loan
to value, yeah, right? LTI, yeah.
The LTI is the land to improvement ratio.
Land to improve. Oh, this is cool. Okay,
Yeah.
land to improvement. Generally, from a builder standpoint, is the old adage, right? You build a house, the lot should be a third, should be 33% of the total package should be your land. So, what do you recommend on the LTI? This will be interesting.
Good question. Good question. So I use the example in when I'm speaking at our conferences or at someone else's event, I always use the example of the last house I lived in Orange County, California. Okay. This house, when I bought it, was $815,000. Okay. And I got my first tax bill, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but roughly the tax bill said, because it divides the land and the improvement, because they assess them differently. Okay. So the tax bill from the Orange County tax collector said that your land is worth like $659,000. And the structure is worth like $156,000 or something like that. Does that add up to 815? I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, something like that.
I like this. Okay, keep going.
The improvement of that equation was 19%.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. And so the land was 81% of the value.
Yeah, disaster.
Now, what happened, I remember I had this girlfriend at the time. Her name was Monique. She tried to talk me out of buying that house because she thought it was overpriced. And her mom was in new home sales, so she kind of thought she knew the business well. We ended up breaking up. I bought the house, okay? and a year later, I noticed the price is going up, and I thought, man, I should refinance, pull some money out, buy some more cheap rental properties around the country, which I did. The appraiser came over, and he said, congratulations, Mr. Hartman, your house is now worth $1.3 million. And I thought, the house went up in a year $485,000. I thought, do I ever love real estate? I really do. I really love it. And so I refinanced the house. I did some cash out. I got a lower rate, and I bought some more rental properties with my refi money. That turned out to be a very good decision. Well, then the rates came down a little more. So I invited the same lender to refinance me again. Now, this is at a time when the whole country was refinancing every 6 months. So it may sound weird by today's standards, but back then it was just a normal thing. Okay. And so I refied again, and the appraiser came over and said, I got bad. And it was the same guy. His name was Eric, by the way. And he came to one of my seminars, and I was telling this story. He was sitting right there. And then he said, I got bad news for you this time. Your house has gone down in value by $50,000. And it's only worth $1,250,000. So here's the lesson in that, Pat. Right as I was buying this house, I bought another house across the country, and this house was $159,000. And my insurance agent called me, and her name was Jennifer, and she was an insurance broker in Irvine. They did nationwide insurance. And she said, on this house that you bought for $159,000, we're going to give you $135,000 of insurance. Now, what does that tell me? That tells me they don't insure the land. They only insure the improvement.
So the land is worth
$24,000.
$24,000,
yeah. So that means the house could burn down, and they got to pay a claim for insurance, right?
So you got a $24,000 lot.
I got a $24,000 lot there, and
where was that?
California. That was in Georgia. Okay.
Georgia.
And in California, I got a lot that now at the peak of the market is worth arguably $1.1 million.
Do the math. It's worth every single dollar. That's a title of a comment that I got on my certified listing agent course from Rebus University. It's from Bill Reeg. This is what Bill says. Bill says, looking to take your listing presentation to the next level? I've closed 100 appointments since I took Pat's certified listing agent course. 5 appointments, 5 new clients, 60 days. Boom, do the math. It's worth every single dollar. Thanks, Bill. But listen, guys, I am offering this to you if you haven't already taken it, because so many brokers and teams make their agents take it before they do a single listing appointment. But if you haven't taken it, you can go to rebusuniversity.com and get it now. Now, here's the thing. For 30 days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you that course. I'm going to give you the buyer agent course, which teaches you how to close every single serious buyer that calls on the phone or emails. The certified team agent course is taught by Jeff Cohn, one of America's top agents, on how to build a team from zero to hero to hundreds and hundreds of units every year, step by step. It's like a 12-hour course, plus 7 other courses. Yes, you heard that right. All for a measly $127 a month. If you were to go to Rebus University and buy these courses individually, it costs you over $10,000. But today, if you go to futureofrealestatetraining.com, that's futureofrealestatetraining.com, you'll learn what Bill Reed did, which is how to close 100% of the listing points you go on. Quite impressive. And you'll learn all the other incredible details provided in the 11 5-star courses that are offered. Yeah, it's like all you can eat bazaar. You go in now and you pay $127 a month. If you can eat all 11 courses in 1 month, that's all you pay is $197. This is a bargain, guys. Get it now. futureofrealestatetraining.com. Hey, real estate rockstars, this is Pat Hartman, and before we jump back into today's content, I want to tell you about an extraordinary offer from an extraordinary company. I'm talking about My Outdesk. If you haven't heard of My Outdesk, basically they're a virtual assistant company, a VA company that specializes in virtual assistants for real estate agents. Yeah, I'm talking about transaction coordinators, marketing assistants. I'm talking about ISAs, inside sales agents that prospect thousands and thousands of seller leads and buyer lead follow-ups. I mean, these guys are trained in this stuff specifically. You're not using a company that doesn't know or understand real estate sales. 4 out of 5 of the top teams in the U.S. use My Outdesk for their virtual assistants. And because I know the owner, Daniel Ramsey, I've known him for over a decade, and I know how awesome and incredible this company is and how it saves agents thousands and thousands of dollars every single week and makes them thousands and thousands of more every single week, we're going to give you a $400 coupon off of your first month of a virtual assistant and give you a free book entitled Scaling Your Business with Virtual Professionals. So you can read it and look into it before you decide anything. It's called Scaling Your Business with Virtual Professionals. And you can get it real easy. All you got to do is text the word Hiban, H-I-B-A-N, to 31996. That's H-I-B-A-N to 31996. And download your free book, Scaling Your Business with Virtual Professionals. And don't forget to mention also that you get a $400 discount, which will give you a coupon for that when you download the book. Thank you, guys, and I hope you enjoy and make a ton of money using My Outdesk. Yep.
Just the dirt only.
So this is interesting. So at what point do you say, Jason, that the LTI
ratio
is too much, time to sell?
Yeah. Well, definitely when it's 1.3 million or 1.25, it's time to sell for sure. Because
when it's what percentage?
Well, about 25 to 30%.
25 to 30%. What the land is worth, 25 to 30.
Yeah, I want the improvement to be most of the value. And I'll tell you why. Here's the lesson. Because the question for that story I've been telling you is when the big house that I lived in went down in price by $50,000, where did that destruction in value come from? Did it come from the land or the improvement? That's the question. And I say...
Yeah, and clearly people would look at that example and be like, okay, that therein lies a tear down, right? And there's a lot of markets where that's happening, and they tear it down.
Well, that was a brand new house, so you weren't going to tear that one down.
It was a brand new house in California?
It was brand new when I bought it. It was only a year old when I first had it appraised and 2 years old at the second appraisal.
Oh, my God. Interesting.
Yeah,
at some point, the cost of construction has to be, more than... 15% or 20% of the cost of the whole project. That's interesting. So,
Well,
I mean, let's say you're going to build, let's say you're in a linear market, and you're going to buy a piece of land and build on it. What do you want the land to be worth compared to the house? What do you want the LTI to be?
Well, for example, if someone listening right now went to my website, jasonhartman.com, shameless self-promoter, and they went to the property section, what they would see, even now in this market, in most of our properties, they're basically getting the land for free. Now, it's not going to look that way on an appraisal, but I'll tell you how I know that. Because I know what it costs to build a house in any of these markets. And the all-in price per square foot they're going to pay is somewhere between 80 and 120, 130 bucks per square foot. And you can't build it for much less than that. Probably it's going to be more to rebuild it. So if you had replacement insurance on that property and it burnt to the ground, your insurance company would have to spend a lot more to rebuild that house than what you paid for it. And that's how you know you've got a pretty safe bet. Okay, even in a recession, granted, properties in a recession, if it's a really bad one, they can sell below the cost of construction. But that construction cost, Pat, sets something of a safety net, a floor on your potential downside risk. I call this whole equation, and it's more complicated than this. I've tried to explain it without any graphics, which when I do it live.
No, this is good stuff. I think all the real estate agents listening to this are going to be looking at tax records now of their own houses and of every house that they look at to sell or list or appraise. In a completely different light.
There's two other ways besides the tax records. There's an appraisal and the insurance. There's three ways: tax records, appraisal, insurance. 3 ways you can tell your land value, right? Versus your improvement value.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, Jason Hartman recommends, try to get that obviously as low as possible, but less than 10%, you're recession proof.
You're never recession proof completely. I mean, in a normal recession, Pat, yeah, you probably are. But in something like the Great Recession that we had 10 years ago, that was hopefully a once in a lifetime event.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a
twice. Well, less than 10% though. That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good way to look at it. All right. I call this the Hartman risk evaluator. It's a whole equation that I've created around this concept. Another way you can determine where you are in the market cycle is what I simply call the rent to value ratios. Now, other people talk about RV ratios, but the way I figure it out is just really simple. There are other ways people state this.
Yeah. I mean, most, if you go to Bigger Pockets or you go to, a lot of these different sites, everybody is hooked on the 1% rule,
right?
Which is same as your equation, which is the rent, the monthly rent, right, should be 1% or more than what you pay for the house. So what does your rent equation say?
It's 1% is ideal. If you can get, if the property is $100,000 and you can get $1,000 per month for 11 months of the year, that's a pretty awesome deal. Boom. Can you do that nowadays? It's getting tougher and tougher, and the quality of the property is going to go down lower and lower. I want your listeners to be careful of what we call the myth of the $30,000 or $40,000 house.
I want to talk to you about that because you're right, because that's what happens. Like if you're chasing that 1% rule, which a lot of investors have and are, you can find it. It's much easier to find the lower the price of the property or the worse the area, let's just say, right? So talk about this.
Yeah, Pat, great point that you bring up. Look at it starts to fail when you get below about $60,000.
Okay. So why?
And the reason it does is because when you get into these C and D class properties, and listen, our clients, some of them
C and D guys means he's talking about age, right? They're just old.
Well, not just age, but just the quality of the neighborhood and the property.
Yeah. Bad, rougher areas, Probably areas you wouldn't live yourself.
I mean, look, there are really old Class A homes out there in nice neighborhoods for sure. But, you get the point,
Yep.
right? A, B, C, D class. And these properties, when the rent gets too low, when you buy a house that's $50,000 and you think you're going to rent it for $500 a month, and you might, what you discover, Pat, is that you're dealing with a class of people that has nothing to lose. And if they don't pay the rent and you have to evict them and they damage the property, it's just not enough money that it's just not worth chasing them. If they're a higher caliber of tenant and they skip out on you and they damage the house, if you go through the process and get a judgment, you have the possibility of actually collecting on it. On the really low end of the market, you're just probably never going to collect. Now, granted, look, everything I say, there's always an exception, because certainly there's someone listening that has made a lot of money in low-end properties. And, it's just a different type of investor. If that's going to be your specialty and you're going to be really good at it, you're going to pay a lot of attention to it, you can certainly do well with it. Okay, there are very rich slumlords out there, no question. Mm-hmm. I'm teasing them a little bit, but it's got to be a focus and a specialty.
And your risk is lessened, right? If you rent government housing, if you have an apartment building and the government rents the whole thing, or you have Section 8 and they're paying your rent for you.
Yeah, and there are some people that love Section 8 and some people that hate Section 8. It's good and bad. The government does pay the rent, but you got to put up with government bureaucracy, and you got to put up with tenants who are on the dole, and again have that nothing to lose mentality. So there are some good things about it, because if they're really bad, they could be kicked out of the Section 8 program, and when they're kicked out for life in most cases, or at least that's my understanding. I've never had one kicked out before, so they do have something to lose in that sense, but
it's hard to kick in a lot of the programs, because I have some.
Yeah,
it's difficult, right? I've had tenants not pay me for a year, and
wow,
because the tenant always has to pay something. Sometimes if they're really lucky, they get 100% rent paid, but usually there's 30, 40, 20% that the tenant has to pay. And I've had tenants screw me over on their portion for a year and go and get another Section 8
portion,
yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay.
You always get the government portion,
right.
But that sometimes is only 60% of the rent.
Yeah.
No, very, very interesting statistics for sure. Let's talk about real estate agents in general. What do you think? Here's a great question, right? If Jason Hartman was a real estate agent today, starting out and only had, say, $1,000, how would you, become the top agent in your office really fast?
Well, that's pretty much how I did start out. I had a lot less than $1,000 when I started. And you know what? I still think, look at technology changes, but people don't change that much. The basic concept of human nature has not changed in any significant way. And the way this is just read scripture, right? People are the same creatures they were 2,500 years ago. In essence, right?
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Well, we all have the same needs. We all have the same flaws. We all have the same jealousies and envies and revenge. And, these are just good and bad parts of our nature. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
We all want community and connection and love. And, it's the human creature is still the same. We evolve very slowly. Okay. And so what I would do is exactly what I did before. I would be a farmer. I would pick a small neighborhood that has, or is going to have, and there are some different ways to predict this and think about it, a decent amount of turnover of properties that's not totally established, where nobody ever sells their house for 30 years. And I would get to know everybody in that neighborhood. I would knock on their door. I would host a party at the pool. I would, I might live there and be a neighbor and invite people over to my house. Things like this, just creating relationships with people and diving deep. I was a very, very good farmer in the old days when I was in real estate. And one of the mistakes I made as my career matured and I became really successful. I took on one farm, and my signs were everywhere. I was far and away the number one agent in that area. And then I would take on another one, I'd dominate that farm, and then another one, and I'd dominate that one. And it was all going great. But I got to a point where I just bit off more than I could chew. And I just couldn't maintain relationships with everybody in all those areas.
Yeah. That's typical. The same thing happened to me. Yeah. I mean, same thing happened to me. And then I can remember looking back at one point going, man, if I had just kept that farm, my farms kind of went up in price range. Mm-hmm. So if I'd have farms that were 4 times the price range of what my farm was, 10 years earlier. Mm-hmm. And then when the market started shifting and the lower price stuff started crushing it and the upper end started hating life, I was like, damn, why'd I give up that, all those townhouses that are selling for $300,000? I could be crushing it now.
Right? Yeah. They were really moving. Yeah. No, I agree with you. That's true. So I think relationships farming, that's the way to go. The lesson I learned from that is I would rather be number one with a small group than number 2 with a large group, because there's no number 2. You either get the business or you don't.
Yeah, that's great advice. And agents have been working that angle for decades and centuries, and it keeps working, and it works today. So let's wrap this up, Jason, and talk about your free gift. You're actually giving 5 free gift, 5 ebooks here. Everybody that comes on the show just brings something, guys. I'm going to put this on hibandigital.com/Jason Hartman and the number 2, because this is his second time on. hibandigital.com/Jason Hartman and the number 2. Go ahead, Jay. Tell me a little bit about this.
Good stuff. So I'm going to donate, and I love this tradition, Pat. It's really awesome how you do that on your show. I'm going to donate 5 of my ebooks for you, and I'm going to handpick them. So I've got quite a few, and I'm going to handpick 5 of them and donate them for your listeners. Okay?
That's awesome. I really appreciate that, guys. And all of Jason's information, I'm going to put contacts. I'm going to put his website. I'm going to put all his social media contacts. If you want to reach out to him and say thank you so much for sharing and that you agree or you disagree, it'll all be on there. hibandigital.com/Jason Hartman 2. And of course, his free gifts will also be in the Agent Success Toolbox, which can be found on hibandigital.com/toolbox. That's hibandigital.com/toolbox, or just text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox to 444-999. Jason, you live in Florida now, so you're much easier to get to from South Carolina. So I will definitely be looking you up. What part of Florida are you in?
I'm Palm Beach.
Palm Beach. If I'm in Palm Beach, I'll definitely look you up. We'll get together and break some bread.
Sounds good. That would be good, Pat. And to all your listeners, thanks for listening, and happy selling and happy investing.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox. And it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. Rockstar Nation, thank you for listening to Real Estate Rockstars. Listen, I need a favor. If you find this free content helpful, if you find our downloadable items from each guest helpful, please, I need you to pull out your pointing finger. Yes, the one finger that points at people, and hit subscribe. Yes, subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the better we look in the ratings, and the easier it is to get guests like Robert Kiyosaki, Barbara Corcoran, all the players that are on $1 million listing in the different cities. All that stuff makes it easier the more subscribers we get, so please subscribe. And listen, there's a lot of places you can leave comments. There's a lot of places you can like. We're on Facebook. We have an Instagram page. Instagram page is I am Pat Hyben. The Facebook is Real Estate Rockstars Radio. Feel free to leave us comments there. The most popular form of commenting seems to happen on YouTube. Yes, for whatever reason, it's a very open environment. So just go to YouTube and go to Real Estate Rockstars Radio. Leave us comments there. Some of them we will read on the show. We love your feedback. So thanks, guys, and I hope you are having a great day. Oh, and also, listen, if you're going to subscribe and you haven't already left a review on iTunes, please do that too. Have a great day, and thanks so much, Rockstar Nation. I really appreciate you.